World leaders are absolutely furious at Donald Trump because they recognize he is a total fraud and a con man. You can't listen to what Donald Trump says. You have to look at his actions. So when Donald Trump claims, okay, you got me. I'm going to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. I'm going to give them the Patriot missiles to help defend against Russia escalating their attacks. You have to say, did Donald Trump send them? Or what's going on? What's the deal here? And Donald Trump earlier this week tried to frame that he was going to be helping Ukraine and he was going to be giving them Patriot missiles. Former President Biden already promised Ukraine Patriot missiles, and our Congress approved it. They appropriated the funds for it. It was just supposed to be sent. But Donald Trump has changed the entire thing, and he's actually, I now want Europe to buy the Patriot missiles from us. We will sell Europe the Patriot missiles, and then Europe can give the Patriot missiles to Ukraine. Okay, well, is that even happening? When you delve deeper, you see, for example, Germany's bet, we'll buy the Patriot missiles. We want to give it to Ukraine. Is the United States sending the Patriot missiles to Germany? No. What's happening? Well, you had the German foreign minister show up at the Pentagon to say, hey, can we have it? And then they have to talk about a deal. And then maybe it comes in weeks, maybe months. Who knows? At the same time, Ukraine is not getting the weapons that it was promised, that Congress appropriated for it, and that it needs to defend itself. And this, by the way, all follows at the same time that Donald Trump is now giving Russia 50 days, Donald Trump says, before the United States will consider imposing secondary sanctions on Russia. And again, I've said this in other videos, but let me remind you where that 50 days come from. When Donald Trump spoke with Vladimir Putin before, right, or on or around July 3rd, Putin said he needed 60 days for his summer offensive in order to conquer key territory as part of the invasion against Ukraine. So if you go to the July 3rd date, then you look when Donald Trump announced the 50 days, he's giving Putin 61 days. He's giving Putin an extra day to conquer the territory from Ukraine. That's where that date comes from. So let me just come to you with receipts, as I always do here on the MeidasTouch Network, and let me show you what's going on behind the scenes that corporate news is not reporting on and why countries, NATO and others are furious at Donald Trump. So I want to play you this. This is from the tarmac, where Donald Trump says that the first Patriot missiles for Ukraine are already being shipped by European allies. I want to play this one for you first because I'm then going to play for you the defense minister of Germany who went to the United States, and he clearly says we don't have these Patriot missiles. But watch what Donald Trump just said the other day. Let's play it.
Already being shipped.
From what countries?
Coming in from Germany and then replaced by Germany, and in all cases, the United States gets paid back in full.
Have you started?
What's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union.
Now, here's what Donald Trump said as well when he brought in the NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, and Trump was asked, are you giving Patriot missiles or are you giving Patriot batteries? Donald Trump clearly doesn't know the distinction here, but listen to what he says. Let's play it.
Will these be Patriot missiles specifically or Patriot batteries that you're planning? And
everything. It's everything. It's Patriots. It's all of them. It's a full complement with the batteries.
And when do you expect them to arrive in Ukraine, sir?
Well, we're going to have some come very soon, within days, actually, because a couple of the countries that have Patriots are going to swap over and will replace the Patriots with the ones they have. And Matt will coordinate with NATO.
And by the way, the Patriot missiles that he's supposed to give are basically half of what was already promised, to the extent those are even going to be given in the first place. So now let me show you what went down when the German defense minister showed up at the Pentagon, and he was interviewed about what happened thereafter. So here's how it's being reported. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, after talks with U.S. Secretary of Defense, confirmed that Germany has offered to buy two U.S. Patriot units to supply them to Ukraine. The agreement is not yet finalized. Talks would continue at the working level to finalize details. Concepts of a deal, in other words, including the number of launchers and missiles that might be included in the agreement. With the deal in place, the first Patriot unit could be sent to Ukraine within months. So let me just show you for yourself. Here's the German Defense Minister, Pistorius. He's interviewed by German TV. We AI'd the voice so we can translate German into English. So listen to this. Let's play it.
The new regulation stipulates that the US will produce the weapons for Ukraine. The European NATO partners will pay for them, including Germany. What kind of scale are we talking about here? Is this about more than the 3 Patriot systems that have been discussed so far?
Today, we talked about the full range of possible deliveries from the US. What is clear, and President Trump announced this today, is that the US will not pay for this. Instead, the Europeans will have to do so. But we've known that for quite some time. But I prefer that the United States is involved rather than not, because they simply have production capacities and can deliver systems that we don't have. And that's why this signal is the right one. And what exactly will be worked out in the coming weeks will be developed and determined by working groups that will convene very quickly. This will move quickly, and it has to move quickly because Ukraine needs further support, especially in the area of air defense.
Since you mentioned the full range that was discussed, what is actually on your wish list? But are there also other weapon systems you would like to purchase besides Patriots?
We have agreed to remain silent on that until it is clear what results will come out in the next few weeks. But I'm sure you understand that discussing this publicly right now would be the wrong approach. We want to become less predictable in what we do and not discuss everything in public forums.
As this one account points out as well, the headline is Trump to send Patriot missiles to Ukraine. That's the media headline. The truth is he's selling Patriot missiles to NATO. So in reality, NATO is sending the Patriot missiles to Ukraine, and Trump is shaking down NATO to buy from the United States instead of the United States being the leader of the free world. It's all transactional to Donald Trump right there. So that's what's going on with respect to our NATO allies. And it should be noted as well that, and I've reported on this before, that Russia has escalated its attacks on Ukraine. In addition, one of the things that Russia struck was a Polish-owned Barlinik Group factory in Ukraine, in a Ukrainian city, that severely injured 8 people. So they attacked Polish property in Ukraine, and the Polish foreign minister said Putin's criminal war is approaching our borders. In other words, things are escalating significantly there. Let me just show you what Russian war bloggers are saying also about Trump's 50-day concept of a plan where maybe there'll be secondary sanctions against Putin. So Chris Owicki, who studies what these Russian military bloggers are saying, they advise the Russian government to wreck Ukraine in the promised bloodiest period ahead. A military informant asks, where did the unusual 50 days come from for Trump, who previously liked to measure everything in 2 weeks? It comes up with the same answer many Western commentators, in that it matches Putin's time frame for completing his conquest. So that's what all the Russian military bloggers are saying. So let me share with you what French President Emmanuel Macron is saying right here. He's talking about, and he realizes that the United States is not a friend when it comes to providing weapons. So he's like, Europe, we got to arm ourselves right now, not because Trump is telling us, but we can't rely on the United States. Here's what he has to say. Let's play it.
Our strength is greater when it is collective. And this is precisely the meaning of the commitment made at the NATO summit in The Hague on the 25th of June, which follows the awareness raised at the Versailles summit in 2022. We must do more for our defense. We must do more on the military, industrial, and technological fronts in order to be more sovereign as Europeans. It is this effort that will allow us to ensure our credibility with our partners, to continue to have the most effective army in Europe, and to forge new partnerships, such as this week with the United Kingdom.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I love soda, and I've loved soda my whole life, well into my 20s and my early 30s. And with all that sugar, though, I just know the compounding effect. Well, I needed to try something different. Olipop is a new kind of soda that provides the classic soda taste with the health benefits of functional ingredient blend to support digestive health. Olipop is reimagining soda with high fiber and only 2 to 5 grams of sugar per can. Olipop is sold online and available in almost 50,000 retailers nationwide. Now, almost every American has some sort of relationship with soda, from their childhood or their adulthood. Some people grew up drinking it all the time and then quit, and some people are still addicted to it like me and are trying to quit. Olipop uses functional ingredient blend to support digestive health. Olipop offers a delicious alternative to traditional soda, providing mainstream consumers with the flavor they want without the typical health trade-offs. 90% of Americans consume more than the USDA's daily recommended added sugar intake of 30 grams. Sweetened beverages like soda are the leading source of added sugars in the American diet. Olipop is much lower in sugar than conventional sodas, with only 2 to 5 grams of sugar from natural sources. There's no added sugar. Their vintage cola has just 2 grams of sugar as compared to a regular Coca-Cola, which has 39 grams of sugar. Their orange squeeze has 5 grams of sugar compared to the orange Fanta, which has 44 grams of sugar. Get a free can of Olipop. Buy any 2 cans of Olipop in store and Olipop will pay you back for one. Works on any flavor, any retailer. Just head to drinkolipop.com/Meidas. Olipop is sold online, drinkolipop.com plus Amazon, and available in almost 50,000 retailers nationwide, including Costco, Walmart, Target, Publix, Whole Foods, Kroger, and Heb. Again, head to drinkolipop.com/Meidas.
Now, let me share with you as well what Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has to say. Canada has the potential to become its own best customer. It's time to build with Canadian steel. We need to focus on buying and building Canada first. Let's play this clip.
Canada has what the world needs. We're becoming an energy superpower. And we are a leader in the building blocks of a modern economy. From high value added steel to aluminum to critical minerals and artificial intelligence. And Canadians have just given governments the mandate to build big things, nation building projects that will transform our economy. We have the potential to become our own best customer for steel, but we will lose that ability if we don't manage the profound transformation now underway in the industry. And to do that, we have to change the way we do things so we can better support our companies and our workers during this time of change.
Now, I had the opportunity to speak with Charlie Angus, leader of the Canadian resistance against the Trump regime, the Resistance Tour. And Charlie Angus is also a former member of parliament there. Here's what he had to say to me when I was asking him about how Canada feels about all of this. Let's play it.
Well, I mean, is anyone surprised that Trump was going to pull this? You know, he declared he was going to have 90 trade deals in 90 days. That bombed. He said that he would have a trade deal with Canada on July 21st, and yet he attacked us. He pulled away from the table. The Prime Minister agreed to drop the digital sales tax, which I think cost the Prime Minister a lot of trust in Canada. They were like, why'd you do that? And the Prime Minister tries to present a vision of saying, you know, I'm reasonable. We're going to work with this guy. The Prime Minister didn't respond when Trump threw arbitrary 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. The Prime Minister said, we're not negotiating in public and by Twitter. We're going to sit down at the table. And then Donald Trump pulls this stunt. So what's very clear, and I think the Prime Minister had to go through this to really get the strength he's going to need now, is that you don't sit down and negotiate with a gangster regime in good faith. You just can't trust Trump. And the one thing we know about Trump is he's never veered off his intention of destroying our nation by destroying our economy. He's made that clear. He's come back at us again and again. He's wavered on so many other nations, but Canada has remained his focus, his enemy, the nastiest people, he says. We see the rising rhetoric coming from Kristi Noem and Kash Patel and the other mega thugs that he has that are blaming Canada for all manner of falsehoods and lies. So this is a moment of decision for Canada to stand up in the face of this kind of threat or roll over. And we are not going to roll over.
Now, one of the things that I should mention as well is the response by Mexico, their very popular President Claudia Sheinbaum, in response to Donald Trump imposing sanctions or additional tariffs on Mexico's tomatoes. Now, America buys a lot of Mexican tomatoes. So Trump is now tariffing those tomatoes, which was subject to an agreement with Mexico, at 17%. It's going to make our purchasing of these tomatoes significantly higher. But here's what the Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum has to say. Let's play it.
We don't like having a 17% tariff imposed on our tomatoes because we consider it completely unfair, and moreover, it's going to affect both countries. The biggest impact will be on the United States because it's very hard to replace Mexican tomatoes. In other words, exports will continue for whatever percentage might be affected. We're working with producers on different options within the Mexico plan, which we'll announce in due course. Obviously, we're looking to minimize the impact on our country as much as possible, since that's our conviction, our job, and what we absolutely have to do.
Now, you saw when Donald Trump attacked the president of Brazil, President Lula. What was the response? Lula's approval rating rose significantly after Donald Trump hit Brazil with 50% tariffs because Donald Trump was demanding that the president of Brazil, Lula, get involved in the criminal case against Jair Bolsonaro, the former president of Brazil, who was involved in a coup to try to overthrow the government in Brazil. And Lula stood up to the United States and said, no, I'm not doing that. That's not the way we operate in Brazil. Lula posted the following as well. He posted an article from his colleague who says, look, Brazil continues to be a country of dialogue, but it will not give up defending the interests of its people, companies, and democratic institutions. One other thing I wanted to point out as well. Donald Trump met yesterday with the Prime Minister of Bahrain in the Oval Office. You'll recall that was the press conference where Donald Trump said that he disowns his supporters who believe that Epstein was involved in a sex trafficking ring. He disowns his supporters. You have to believe it is a hoax, he says right now. By the way, I just find it interesting that the Oval Office looks exactly like Jeffrey Epstein's home. You can see right there that it does. But there was something that struck me about what the Prime Minister of Bahrain said. He said, we're announcing a $17 billion deal with the United States. He goes, that's not a fake deal like some of these other deals. We're going to do a real deal. It's an important statement because what he's reflecting is that Donald Trump, when he went to the Middle East and met with Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia, he's saying that those deals, we're going to give you $5 trillion, $8 trillion, which Donald Trump now claims he's brought back $17 trillion to the United States, that those deals are fake deals because that's not real money. The UAE, whose entire GDP is $400 billion, or Qatar, whose entire GDP is $150 billion. How could they give $17 trillion? Trump's making up numbers. By the way, that was what Trump's fraud case was about when he was found civilly liable. He makes up numbers. So here, the Prime Minister of Bahrain's like, we're going to do a real deal. And by the way, $17 billion, still a big amount of money. But notice now how Donald Trump's just viewed as like a clown internationally. Here, play this clip.
Thank you, one and all. It is indeed a great honor to be here on this fine morning to put into action the relationship that exists between our two countries. We will be discussing security issues, we'll be discussing trade and investment, which is very important. We're very happy to be announcing $17 billion worth of deals. that are coming to the United States. And this is real. This isn't.
It's real money.
These aren't fake deals. These are real deals.
They don't have to borrow the money.
We don't have to borrow it. It's coming in.
Now, one other point that I think is worth mentioning as well, Canada and UK showing the strength of their relationship together. The Commonwealth is really coming together now as a check against the United States. So from last week until July 21st, the Royal Canadian Mount, the King's Life Guard at Horse Guards, only the third non-UK unit in history to do so. A proud moment of Canadian nationhood and sovereignty, and a great example of Canada's enduring commitment to its allies. So, just show symbolic, of course. Symbolic, but showing the bonds between nations. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.